Colorado sky. Friday night's calling and the towns go quiet. From Doug Shaw Memorial to John McKissick Field, Carolina football, it's the heart we feel. Pickup trucks line up, tailgates in a row, Hyde Stadium's rocking, Abbeville's ready to go. The Sumter Gamecocks charge, Gaffney's standing tall, every small town's dreaming neath the lights of fall. Four-quarter Friday, where the heart beats pound, Carolina shuts down every town. From the first snap to the final play, we're living for the glory of a four-quarter Friday. In Gilbert, America, the bleachers fill with pride. Cheerleaders shout, the band's playing, no one's staying inside. The boys in pads hit hard, chasing that old dream. Under stadium lights, it's more than just a team. Mamas clutch their programs, daddies yell the calls, grandpas talk of legends in these hallowed football halls. From the low country marshes to the upstate's clay, four-quarter Friday lights the Carolina way. Four-quarter Friday, where the heart beats pound, South Carolina shuts down every town. From the first snap to the final play, we're living for the glory of a four-quarter Friday. Shaw's roar to McKissick's sacred ground. Hot stadium's fire, you can feel the sound. Sumter Gamecocks fly, Gaffney holds a line, J-Mo run the dang ball, we're screaming for a sign. Rivalries burn bright, the clock's ticking down. On four-quarter Friday, we're the talk of town. When the whistle blows and the scoreboard fades away, the lessons from the field guide us every day. Teamwork, grit, and pride, it's more than just a score. Carolina football's what we're fighting for. From the PD rivers to the upstate's misty hills, four-quarter Friday gives our hearts a thrill. Four-quarter Friday, where the heart beats pound, South Carolina shuts down every town. From the first snap to the final play, we're living for the glory of a four-quarter Friday. So here's to the Palmetto boys, giving it their all on a four-quarter Friday. South Carolina stands tall.
Welcome into Fourth Quarter Friday. So glad you are with us, and we're so glad that we're got the full team back together. I am Matt Smith. That is Steve Hall, who is back with us after a week away, feeling a lot better. Of course, we are definitely going to tackle the basketball playoffs, boys and girls today. We'll take a look at those brackets. We've got baseball with Austin Alexander from the diamondprospects.com. We'll talk high school and maybe even into a little college about some of the players that have just recently moved on from the Palmetto State and are now taking college baseball on. And we have Matt Quinn joining us from Averett University. He's one of the founders, kind of Four Quarter Friday. We'll tell that story in just a little bit. But right now, we want to do something. We said we were going to bring you the new head coaches coaches that are connected with programs here moving on into the 2026 season. And we've got one of those right now. State championship winning head coach Victor Floyd wins a title at Chester, had so much success there, multiple region titles, and now he's taking himself to the Midlands to take the head job at White Knoll. We welcome Coach Floyd in right at the top here. Coach, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on getting connected with White Knoll. It looks like a good fit.
Thank you for having me, and thank you. It is a good fit for me.
Well, Coach, go ahead, Steve.
Sorry about that, Smitty. Coach, you got hired, I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Tell us a little bit what it's been like so far at White Knoll. What's kind of been your workload so far, and what's the day-to-day been like so far since you arrived in Red Bank?
Well, it's been a little bit of a whirlwind so far because you have so many things coming at you so fast, so many people that you have to meet, trying to learn the players, the names. There are a lot of pieces to the puzzle that you're trying to put together. So it's kind of an ongoing thing. I woke up this morning at 4:00, couldn't go back to sleep, thinking of all the stuff that I have to get done. So, it's been kind of a whirlwind, but that's to be expected anytime you go through a transition period. I've enjoyed it. Everything's slowly coming together, and it'll be a process, but I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Well, Coach, as we mentioned, you had a lot of success at Chester. I know you've got a background. You coached at C.A. Johnson. Tell us, essentially, how did you land this job? How did you get connected at White Knoll? Because you were having so much success at Chester. What was the decision like to take on a new challenge?
Well, I think it was just 15 years at one place. And, things have been, pretty good. We started kind of from the bottom and worked our way up. And it was just kind of time to move on to new challenges. And I thought the White Knoll situation was kind of ideal for me, pretty much a dream job for me, being at the highest classification and having the resources and the players and the things that surround the program. Coach Pelham did a great job building a foundation and building a program and having success. And I hope that I'm able to carry that on.
Coach Floyd, you've been doing this for a long time, as Smitty kind of referenced earlier. But allow our viewers and us to get to know your journey a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about just where you grew up and some of the coaches and mentors that kind of shaped you into the coach you are today.
Well, I grew up in the metropolis of Greensea, South Carolina, and went to Greensea Floyd's High School. We were the fluctuating team in 1A and 2A back then. My freshman, sophomore year, we were 1A. My junior, senior year, we were 2A. I think back then our region might have been Loris, Mullins, North Myrtle Beach, Latta, Hemingway, and who else? There were about 6 of us then. But anyway, long story short, signed a scholarship to go to Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I was there for a year. Coaching staff changed. I ended up going to junior college, which landed me back in North Carolina at Shawan Junior College. Went from there to North Carolina A&T on scholarship, played there 2 years. Went from that, bounced around some different tryouts, ended up being a GA for a year. Then I ended up getting hired full time, which kind of intrigued me to go to high school. Because at the time in Greensboro, there were a lot of big high schools that were having decent success. And there was one that was having a lot of success. Greensboro Page, Todd Ellis played there, Haywood Jeffries, Trip Wellborn, those guys. And I was fortunate enough to get hired there under a Hall of Fame coach named Marion Kirby. And that was really significant, played a significant role in my development as a coach, because I've been blessed. In high school, I played for a Hall of Famer. Hoyt Holt was a Hall of Famer. He was from Mullins, South Carolina. He was a Hall of Famer at the Citadel. Then when I got to junior college, I played for a Hall of Famer named Jim Garrison, who won tons of games, and he's in the Hall of Fame in North Carolina. the National Junior College Hall of Fame. And then in North Carolina A&T, I played for another Hall of Famer, Coach Bill Hayes, who's in the North Carolina Hall of Fame, the Black College Hall of Fame, college football. He's in about every Hall of Fame you can be in. And then I get hired by a Hall of Fame coach. So I've been pretty blessed with the mentors along the way. Everybody that I've been around have been Hall of Famers. So I've had an opportunity to learn what to do, what not to do, and kind of everything in between. And that's kind of helped me along the way. And I've took bits and pieces from all of them to kind of groom my own philosophy about things. I had an opportunity to watch things, close up, watch how they handled situations, watched how they dealt with success, watched how they dealt with young people, watched how they handled their families. In the coaching profession, family's huge because of time. So I've had a chance to witness all of that. And people ask me, Coach, are you married? I've been married. It'd be 28 years in May. So I've had an opportunity to observe, watch, take notes, and learn from some of the best.
That is incredible. That is absolutely fascinating, Coach. This is Victor Floyd, head coach at White Knoll, joining us. That you have been touched by so many Hall of Famers. And you said something in there, though. You said you were at Green C. Floyd's, and I think you won your 2018 title over Dylan. If that's true, that had to be extra sweet for somebody from Green C. Floyd's to take down the mighty Wildcats.
Oh, yeah, it was. Dylan is about 20 minutes from my house. At Lakeview's probably 10 minutes from my house. So, having an opportunity. And what was really sweet, the Trojans won their first one that year also. Green C. Floyd's. They won the 1A the same year that we won the 3A. So that was a special year.
That's awesome. Coach, I also wanted to ask, you were talking about all your influences, especially the way that they handled their family, the way they handle people. You got to see Hall of Famers do it. But you said two names in there that really struck me, Todd Ellis and Haywood Jeffries. If I'm not mistaken, those are two run and shoot players. Haywood Jeffries played in the run and shoot with the Oilers, Todd Ellis. So I just wonder, was there a run and shoot philosophy that it all influenced you from that time?
Well, I think it was a combination of things, to be honest with you, but I loved how Coach Kirby was really an option guy. People don't know that. Todd Ellis and Jeff Dunn. I don't know if you remember Jeff Dunn. He was Todd's backup, ended up playing at University of Alabama right behind Todd. Page had two big-time quarterbacks 2 years in a row. Ellis went to South Carolina, played free safety as a junior. The next year, Ellis went to South Carolina. Dunn played free safety as a junior. The following year, he went to Alabama. So Coach kind of groomed his offense around what his guys could do back then, and those guys could spin the ball, and that's what made him throw it around. But he was really an option guy. He was really a run-first option guy. But the execution piece is what I got from him probably more than a lot of the other things. He was a stickler on execution. I mean, we could run one play 12 times till you got it correct. And I'm talking about lineman steps to receiver steps to every facet of it. And that's what always amazed me during my era at Page. We were not quite as gifted as the teams prior to, but he would take less and get the max effort out of them through repetition. So that's always been my theory. The more reps you get, the better you get at it. So learning from him was huge.
Well, Coach, some of those stories are fascinating. We love talking about just our histories and where we come from, and that gets us to just kind of how that's going to be molding your program at White Knoll. We mentioned a couple different schematics, the veer and shoot, the option, all that. What do you like to do, and what are you looking to do on offense and defense at White Knoll High School?
Well, we will be a spread team. Now, whether that's spread to throw, spread to run, it's kind of yet to be seen. Depends on personnel. But system-wise, it can cater to either or. And that's one thing that, I've been fortunate enough to learn along the way. As high school coaches, we don't recruit. Well, I take that back. I don't recruit, so I can't go out and get players to fit my scheme. So I have to have a scheme flexible enough that will accommodate year-to-year high school football players. And there's some years you have a trigger guy that allows you to do more. And there's some years you have to scale it back and run the ball and do what you're capable of doing and just get good at it. And that's one of the joys of coaching high school ball. It's almost like a secret puzzle you put together from year to year because every team is different. So we will be a spread team. Now, whether that's 4 wides, a tight end 3 wides, or whatever, it kind of depends. Personnel would dictate that. I'm not going to tell you we're going to throw it 50 times. I'm not going to tell you we're going to run it 50 times, but we would definitely hone in on what our personnel is capable of doing. Put our young men in the best possible situation to be successful.
Well, that's one thing we talk about during the playoffs quite frequently is this, like, hey, you better be able to run the football and you better be able to stop the run.
That is correct.
And you're not going to throw it without that running game either. So the trenches is where that all starts. And Smitty, I got one more question here. He kind of hit, Coach Floyd, you kind of hit on this. But talk a little bit more about what your favorite part of coaching is. You kind of hit on it just a little bit, but what's your favorite part of being a coach in high school football?
I tell you, it's the reason I stayed in high school. It's simply the development of young men from 9th grade to 10th grade to 11th grade to 12th grade. A lot of times your freshmen come in kind of wide-eyed and look like they all need to be on Ritalin, and it's just a process. And Coach Kirby used to always say, the good part about it, they will become sophomores, and those sophomores will become juniors. And those juniors will become seniors. And it's just the development, watching those guys grow. I mean, I think Gene McCaskill comes to mind, young man that played for me at Chester graduated 08 and went to the University of Kentucky to play receiver. As a freshman, he was 5'5", 119. And you look at him then, you would say there's no way he would end up in the SEC. And yet, for 5 years later, this kid's starting in Kentucky as a freshman. So, I mean, just the development piece, I think it's pretty amazing. And the one thing about high school, they change year to year, and they're not finished developing, and their personalities aren't complete yet. When we get kids, we get to see a significant change. When kids get to college, there's a significant physical change, but mentally, there's some maturity. But by the time they get to the NFL, those coaches get them. They're not changing. They're who they are. So we get to have the most emphasis on their development.
Well, that's absolutely true. Coach, I wanted to ask you, because you've been a championship coach, and now you're coming into White Knoll. Look, this is a good program. It's not as if you've got this big-time rebuild, which you've encountered a couple of times when looking through your history. But this isn't a big-time rebuild, but how do you take teams from good to great? What do you know maybe that you can instill in these players and talk them through about what makes the difference between good athletes and championship teams?
To be honest with you, is mindset. The physical part, everybody does the physical part. We all lift weights. We all throw 7-on-7. We do 11-on-11. We go through all the physical parts. From going to good to great is strictly between the ears and developing enough mental toughness to be able to handle adversity. Because like I know, with adversity, some people step up and some people step back. And it's about getting enough of our guys to be able to step forward when adversity happens instead of stepping back, to be able to hold their head high instead of dropping it and looking at the ground when it goes wrong. And I think that's the difference between good and great. I think it's a mentality and a mindset that you have to try to develop through some type of mental toughness. What that looks like kind of depends on program to program, based on the type of kids you have, what excites them, what they buy into. But I think that's the difference.
Coach, last question for you. What does that look like in this day and age? I mean, we are talking about it quite frequently, unfortunately. But the Wolf Way, you kind of mentioned in your opening press conference of commitment, discipline, sacrifice, toughness, and unity. And now we're living in a time where we have a transfer portal, and now NIL is starting to be talked about. How do you develop that mental toughness to be able in your program? What are you looking to do as far as how to change that mindset? Because that's psychology, and that's pretty tough, especially today.
It is. It's extremely tough. And what I think you have to be willing to do is stick to your guns and not necessarily cater and give in. Because I still think kids that run from discipline, run from toughness, those are going to be the very things that keep them from being successful. They're going to be the very things that keeps them from being successful in life, because they run from the things they need. And people ask me all the time, do you worry about guys transferring? I mean, it's something I can't worry about. I'm going to do the things I know that will make us successful. You know, I trust in God that he will keep the ones here who can make it happen. The ones that, leave because I want them to do the right thing, I am perfectly okay with them leaving, because I'm at their best interest. I think that's part of development and growth. I think that's what's missing in society in a lot of situations. They're all about the quick fix and everything happening right now, instead of going through the process, which at the end of the day, the process is what's going to make the difference in their life when they become husbands and fathers. When it gets tough, they can't run out and go get another. Well, I guess they could run out and get another wife, but I don't know how that would work out. You can't go get another set of kids. There are things that you have to be able to deal with and go through in life as a man that I think you just have to stick it out. And there are going to be kids that, hey, it's not for me. I understand. But if your issue with me is that I care about you doing what you're supposed to, I care about your academics, I want you to be successful in 10 years, I am perfectly okay with you leaving the program, because I know that I'm trying to do the right thing by you. And we're going to stick to our guns, and it's going to be the Wolf Way.
Coach, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We look forward to seeing your team play coming up this fall. And we know you got a lot of work to do. We'll let you go get to it. We're going to talk to Coach Fiddler for a few minutes. But thank you so much, Coach. We're going to talk to you again, and can't wait to see your club play this year.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
That is Victor Floyd. Boy, that gets you revved up, right? And we're going to bring Coach Shane Fiddler in now, a longtime football coach himself. He's the athletic director at White Knoll. And, Coach, before we even get started, man, I got goosebumps. I can see why you like Victor Floyd heading up your football program now. I see how you two could, one football coach could connect to that message.
Oh, yeah, we've known each other for a while, quite a few years. So when Coach Pelham, who did such an amazing job here, really getting this program from where it was to take them to a state championship and region championship, beating last region team to beat Dutch Fork, just all the great things he's done here. And we know he's going to do great things at Lake Wiley. But, when we were looking for a new coach, we knew that Coach Floyd was someone we wanted to target and get up here on campus to meet with the committee and have our district leadership meet with them. And he was when he went through his interview process, everybody knew. And I was just sitting there smiling because I knew as well. So we're real excited to have him. He's made such a difference already on campus with some of our boys. And I can tell the excitement that they're building. He's getting the staff together, and we're looking forward to great things from Coach Floyd and the staff he brings in to do with our kids, and hopefully continue the success that's been here for a couple years.
Coach, thank you for joining us again, man. That message Coach Floyd just left us with, man, that's why I love high school athletics. You still have a lot of men and women in this state that believe in doing things the right way, and their mission is the kids and really molding and shaping them. And And one of the reasons we had you on is because you have the mission as an AD and as a coach yourself to continue pouring into coaches and molding and supporting them for that mission. And one of the big mission that we're talking about and I'm alluding to is the Coaches 35 and Under Academy that I think you've been rolling with now for, was this year 4 or 5?
Yep, this is year 4 right now. So
yeah,
that program got started in 2023. The genesis of it was in 2019 when I was head football coach at Waccamaw High School. I was selected for the national 35 under 35. I was one of 2 high school coaches in the country. I look back on it and laugh because the guy who sat to my left is now the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, and the guy who sat to my right is in the NFL. So I was way out of my league in that room, but it was really great to be a part of, create some good relationships. And I thought, how can we bring this to our state, to our coaches? It was such an awesome experience for me. How can we pass this on? Because they don't choose a lot of high school coaches to be a part of that. 1, maybe 2 a year. So got with Jimmy Noonan, who's executive director of the Football Coaches Association at the time. Lee Taylor, Jason Farmer's now president. Those guys are the leadership of our Football Coaches Association, and brought this idea to them and said, we'd like to do a 35 and under academy. Well, how's it going to fund? Well, we work with some partners, Links and Legacy, fundraising, BSN, Pro Gear Sports, Rydell, Guardian Caps, the Coaches Combines. All these groups came together to help get this off the ground for our young coaches. So every year we have head coaches, coordinators, position coaches of varsity programs apply to be a part of it. Our committee gets together, chooses. Originally, the first 2 years, we did 15 selections each year. Now we're up to 20 because so many people want to be a part of it. And, as more people want to be a part of it, we can add people to it as long as our partners are willing to help continue fund it and get it going. And it's just a day, an 8-hour day where the coaches come in and they get more than X's and O's. They get, the interview process. This year we brought in Chad Leapart, the district AD from Lexington 1 and Perry Parks, head football coach at River Bluff. And they talked about what the interview process looks like from the person applying's perspective and the person doing the hiring's perspective, because a lot of those people in that room never been a part of anything like that. So they wanted some tips and tricks and just to know what the ins and outs were of it. And then we brought in Ian Gearin this year to talk about how to do relate to the media and how to promote your program and the things that he sees coaches do well and things he sees coaches do bad. So that way he can share that with the guys. We brought in Perry Woolbright to talk about his story, his career, the things that he recommends, the things he doesn't recommend, because people need to see what that looks like from a coach's perspective, right? Who has been through a few processes and worked in different parts of the state and worked for different types of leadership and at different schools. So that way these coaches can get those things. We're bringing Chris Collins, who works with our Athletic Coaches Association. And with that being said, Scott Early was a major help in this as well. We used to do this at the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association All Sports Clinic. We moved it to the Winter Football Coaches Clinic for our 4th cohort. But the first 3 were at the Greenville Clinic for the All Sports Coaches. So thank you to Scott Early for all the help he provides for this event as well. But Chris Collins, who is the official realtor, I guess, of the Athletic Coaches Association, he comes in and talks about when you take a new job, here's how you prepare your house. Here's how you let your wife make decisions of your house, right? Don't choose a house with 7 types of flooring and she cries. He likes to tell that story because that was my situation when we moved to Ashley Ridge. Goes through the timeline of rent and moving trucks and how to invest money to save. And he just goes through that. And coaches never think about that stuff. So he goes through that and tells everybody, how they can apply that. And it's just a day of professional development. We bring in head coaches to do a panel and we let those guys ask questions. And they're like, how did you handle recruiting with your kids? And one coach will be like, I do everything in my kids. Another guy's like, we don't do any of that. The coaches come to us. So they get different perspectives. We try to be really purposeful in who we choose to sit on these panels to present this information. We want the coaches that day to get different perspectives. We want them to get good information, and we want them to leave there feeling like they got a lot out of it. And we do a little survey every year. Hey, how'd it go? What'd you like? What'd you not like? And the feedback's always very, very positive. And now we're at the point where we've had guys that have been a part of it. They're becoming head college football coaches. We've had a bunch of assistants get head jobs. So the program's working because we're seeing our guys move up. Now, people move up naturally, no doubt, but I've had school administrators, I've had current head coaches reach out and say, can you send me the list and contact information of people that have been a part of this? Because I want to look to hire somebody that's been a part of it. So we're seeing a lot of great things from it, a lot of benefits, and we're hoping to continue to grow it as the future comes.
That's an incredible story. And Coach, you talked about it a little bit there. Maybe you can put a finer point on it. We had Jason Farmer on with us last week as the coaches clinic was kind of getting rolling, but it's always interesting to me how, who might be in your phone. We always think about it from the media or fans perspective. You guys are on opposing sidelines, but even coaches you've never shared a staff with, can you tell us what it means to be in that fraternity of coaches? Because every time we get on the inside, like conversations like this, we start to realize you guys aren't just a group that competes against each other. The competition is there, but you're one unit as well with a singular mission.
Yeah, we are. And what I tell the guys when they're coming to this event, I say, dress like it's a job interview, because there's going to be people presenting to you that are going to be looking at you and they might want to hire you someday. And there's going to be people in that room that are going to get other jobs and they're going to want to hire you as well, or you might want to hire them. So creating that networking early with this 35 and under is huge. But when you go to that coaches clinic, like when you spoke with Coach Farmer last week, I was there, as well as 800 other coaches across the state. You're looking around that room and you're trying to figure out who's who, because you're thinking about, all right, when I have this position open on my staff, who in this room do I want to hire? Who would I want to work with, right? And you're creating those connections, and adults go out after the clinic, after the speakers are all done, and you're still creating those connections as the moon comes up, right? Before you go to sleep. And Coach Floyd and I, that's how our connection started. Was we met at some clinics sometimes. I spoke one year, and he sat in the room, and one year he spoke and I was in the room for that. We created that connection at all-star events, seeing each other. I coached in North-South one year. He had a kid in the game, and he was coaching in the Shrine Bowl, had one of my kids. So those connections are created, and you never know when that connection is going to be needed for your individual career, right? So that's a great example is why Coach Floyd's sitting in this room or in this school building today, is the connection that him and I created at those events, like you talked about, this one fraternity where we're all together over the last 10 to 15 years. So, and you just don't know who was there last week that might want to bring you on, or you might want to bring them on later. So you got to create those connections, be good with everybody. Obviously, it's a lot of grown men, a lot of football coaches. There are, some hostilities based on competition. That always happens. But at the end of the day, like you said, we're all on the same mission to prepare these young men for life going forward. So how can we all work together to get that done and still go out there and compete appropriately?
Coach, I have to put you on the spot. I have one last question for you. Y'all are coming back from the Football Coaches Association clinic. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of news coming around from the State House about potentially the high school league being disbanded from the state legislature. That has been that topic, or that bill has been pushed to next week, I believe, for them to have a vote in the House. I know how I feel about it, and me and Smitty were talking off air about it. It scares me to see high school athletics and kids being used as a potential political football in years to come if they were to get rid of the high school league. But I'm a little bit on the outside looking in, maybe more so on the inside than some. But could you play a tape forward of what it would look like and the implications if they vote to disband the current high school league?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I challenge the people a part of this, pushing this bill. When you're doing these conversations at the State House, don't just have parents and coaches of a certain type of school get up there and speak about their experiences. Bring in administrators, athletic directors, people from different types of schools, different parts of the state, different types of backgrounds to speak about what's going on in high school athletics. And you talk about what would happen if this happened. How do we get a constitution organized to play sports next year? How do we get everyone on the same page to do that? We don't have a plan for that if you disband the high school league today. it doesn't seem like there's a plan. I understand everyone's concern. I understand why everyone, some people are like, get rid of it. Some people are like, no, keep it together. I get both sides. My question is, what's the plan? If you disband the high school league, where are you going to hold championships next year? We already have contracts, right? We already have places where we feel like that's going to happen. Who's going to be in charge? Oh, well, these people are going to appoint these people. Well, who are those people? How are they going to get together and get organized to get everything together by August, right? Who's going to regulate summer practices? Who's going to regulate transfers over that time? What are you going to do with the building that the high school league owns? What are you going to do with all the reserve money the high school league has? Are the officials on board? There's so much that goes into this, and there's so many questions that need to be answered. It's not just, we don't like how one person makes decisions or how one person does things. We need to get rid of them. We need to scrap the whole thing. Everybody needs to relax. There needs to be more perspectives brought in, more sides of the story. There's just a long way to go. And I think that what we have now can be resolved. It can be worked through. I think everybody just needs to relax, and we need to continue doing what's right for our students of our state. If we get into next year and let's say this happens and now all of a sudden we have no state championship to compete for, or there's no officials to officiate, or whatever it might be, now are we doing what's best for our kids? At the end of the day, we need to think about what's best for our kids, what's best for our communities. And I think sometimes too, we're so caught up in what, 5% of the people out there are being loud about, the issues they have, that we're hurting the 95% that are doing it the right way, competing for their community, doing what they're supposed to do, keeping high school athletics what it was meant for. And I think we need to take a step back, get all perspectives, and remember that the main thing here is the student athletes and what high school athletics is really about.
Very well said.
Yeah, Coach Fiddler, we can't thank you enough for that insight. Certainly said better than we could have said it, and we will continue to have conversations like that on this show. This can be a forum for things just like so. We'll bring your perspective on and other coaches as well, and we also thank you for your time, and congratulations on what I think is a big-time hire in getting a championship coach to White Knoll. Continued
100%.
Success, and thanks so much for the time today.
Appreciate you. Go Wolves.
There you go. Go Wolves from Coach Fiddler. Our thanks to Shane Fiddler and to Coach Victor Floyd. Steve Hall, Matt Smith here with you on Fourth Quarter Friday. We'll react to that, all that we just heard. We'll also talk about the high school basketball playoffs on the boys and girls side, and we still have Austin Alexander and Matt Quinn set to join us on today's show. We'll get going with that when we come back with second quarter action here on Fourth Quarter Friday on the Chief Sports Network.
It's football season. The Barn Dominium Company wants to help you build your dream home with your dream space to watch the games and entertain your friends and family. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com for floor plans, photo galleries, locations, and to learn more about us.
Oh man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawsc.com. hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team.
Check the statewide high school scoreboard every Friday night on the Chief Sports app.
You're tuned into the state of South Carolina's weekly high school show, Four Quarter Friday, hosted by Matt Smith and Steve Hall, part of the Chief Sports Network, and proudly presented by the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association.
Keep believing, no plans on leaving, even if we have a losing season. Pride is a capital letter on my baseball cap. It's what holds us together around this dot on the map. Now it's the color I bleed in the stitches in my stitches in my stitches in my stitches in my pride is a capital letter on my baseball cap. It's what holds us together around this dot on the map. It's the color I bleed in the stitches in my shoes and my jacket matching right. Pride.
This is Four Quarter Friday, and it is a big Friday. Matt Smith and Steve Hall are here with you. Our thanks again to Shane Fiddler and Victor Floyd. Coach Fiddler, the athletic director at White Knoll, and Victor Floyd, the new head coach of the Wolves, as he takes on a new challenge. That is going to be a fun program to watch. But what we want to do in this segment is get you up to date on what is happening in boys and girls playoff basketball. It is getting down to it. We will start with some teams that everybody knows. Burns and Ridgeview are meeting for the Upper State Championship. And Steve, you've been on Ridgeview all season long. You know how good they are. And, of course, Burns boasts the 5A State Player of the Year, Colt Fowler. We had Lane Fowler on with us a couple of weeks ago. So that's one of those games. If you could be in that gym, and both teams are actually going to have to travel. We'll get into that. But that's one of those games, if you could teleport and get there, that's a great one to take in tonight.
Yeah, and I wish these things were being played on their home court, Smitty. We talked about that off air a little bit, but that seems like a interesting decision. I don't know why. You know, if I'm Ridgeview or if I'm, Cane Bay, I'm kind of wishing I still had my home court advantage.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So these are neutral site games, and I should say that Ridgeview and Burns is actually tomorrow. That's tomorrow. And they're going to play in Rock Hill. And in the lower state in 5A Division I, Cane Bay, which is a team that started out red hot, took a couple of lumps in playing in a very difficult region, ended up with a 4 seed, and then they play against Ashley Ridge, who is also in a super difficult region down there. So those two will meet, and they'll be at the Florence Center. And as we move down into 5A Division II, the Upper State Championship is Riverside and Greenville. They tip off at Wofford, which is a great facility there on the campus, the Terriers campus. Riverside and Greenville, that's a great game. So both of those teams not too far from each other in the Greenville area, but they head on down 85 and will play at Wofford. And that game is tonight. And in Division II in the lower state, Westwood is taking on, and this is a game you'd love to be at, Westwood and Gray Collegiate. I said Gray Collegiate, Steve, not Gray Collegiate.
Yeah.
Goose Creek. Gray Collegiate is out. We'll talk about that in a second. But Goose Creek and Westwood, that is a big-time matchup between those two clubs.
Yeah, the first time that Westwood has ever made it to the lower state championship from what I saw on the Twitterverse earlier this week, which was surprising because, they've always been pretty good in basketball.
Absolutely. And in 4A boys playoff basketball in the upper state, Lancaster is playing South Point, and that game is also tomorrow. So they'll have kind of a doubleheader there with Burns and Ridgeview at Rock Hill. And in 4A in the lower state, this was what I was alluding to. North Augusta will take on Bluffton at the Florence Center. And Steve, North Augusta got Gray Collegiate, so a measure of revenge. You saw North Augusta earlier this season, and they weren't at full strength, but you see how good they can be when they've got all their players and that full roster in rotation is together.
Yeah, Coach Harrell's done a great job. When they were missing, I think their two best players in the regular season matchup against Gray, and they held their own without them. It just created that excitement for this last matchup, and you're like, oh, goodness, I can't wait to see what happens. And it looks like North Augusta might have won 67-59. So, and that was in enemy territory for them, I believe, because Gray Collegiate was the 1 seed and had home court. So what an exciting time of the year, Smitty. And then you've been all over. If we go back a little bit on Greenville, all right, to 5A Division II, and Riverside has been highly ranked all year long too. What do you see anything coming out of that one?
I love the matchup. Well, what I liked about Greenville is the way they were one of those take on all comers programs, and I just really like to see when these teams they play really rugged schedules back in December. And even though they take some losses, I feel like that forges a team. And I'm always careful to bury a team that takes 2 or 3 losses along the way somewhere. We see these teams and you get on rolls, and sometimes deservedly so, where you go out and you're 23-1 or whatever it might be. But you also have teams that have 4, 5, 6, 7 losses that just have played rugged competition, and they're ready for a playoff run. And that was one of the things I saw with Greenville. Hey, Riverside too. That's a team that was going back and forth with Dorman and Burns and a very difficult region up there in Region 2, 5A. So they're battle tested as well. And as we move on down into 3A, I'll take some credit for this one because I thought, Steve, that Keenan might be one to watch. And even though they didn't grab one of those top seeds, they are battle tested and they've got a championship roster because a club that won the title a season ago. And you could just see the seeds of that we kind of compared them to what Tom Izzo does at Michigan State. Maybe they're ready to be one of those teams that even though you might get them in January, try beating them again in late February. They're hard to beat. And they've got Fox Creek at the Florence Center. And in the upper state, Christ Church, who, again, had one of the top victories all season long, knocking off Dutch Fork, a 5A power. Christ Church plays Mountain View at Hillcrest for the 3A Boys Upper State Championship. That game is taking place tonight. So I love those matchups as well. And then in 2A, American Leadership plays High Point at Mid-Carolina. That game is going to be taking place tonight. And then at the Florence Center, you've got Mullins and Philip Simmons. That game is tomorrow at 12:30. But, teams that we were talking about all season long that, were all highly ranked. And we just kept saying, keep your eye on High Point, keep your eye on High Point. I think they were the number 1 team heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, man, next week's going to be awesome. We're going to be there in hopefully multiple capacities, but I'm definitely going to be there for a lot of those games, Smitty, and I just wish I could be cloning myself for the next 2 nights, and days between so many different locations. I mean, how do you even pick, honestly?
Oh, there's too many great games. There really is. There's 4 or 5 that we've already brought up that I'd love to be a part of.
Yep.
And here's another one. This one's taking place tomorrow at Batesburg-Leesville in 1A Boys. Horse Creek. Again, one of those incredible records, one of those big-time records, Horse Creek versus C.A. Johnson. And I love this about Andrew Baxley. We had Andrew Baxley on kind of middle of the season from Prep Hoops, South Carolina, and he called us back and said, I forgot to talk about C.A. Johnson and how good they are and what kind of team, how tough and out they're going to be. So then we had him back on, and then he got to sing C.A. Johnson's praises. And here, sure enough, they're in the upper state finals. And in the lower state, it's Bethune-Bowman and Carver's Bay. And all those lower state games are taking place at the Florence Center. And Bethune-Bowman and Carver's Bay are taking place tomorrow at 2:00. So all weekend long, great stuff. And we don't want to forget about the girls, Steve. You've got those in front of you because the girls very similarly are playing, neutral site or Florence Center over the next 2 days.
Yeah, we got, let's see, let me get back to it here. So 5A Division I, Blythewood is playing for another chance to win another state championship in girls basketball. They're playing Malden on tonight, and then tomorrow night, the lower state, my alma mater, Lexington, is playing Wando. So two massive schools going up against each other at 5 p.m. Tomorrow at the Florence Center. Then 5A Division II, Goose Creek and Berkeley are playing for the lower state. Saturday, Greenville and Gaffney are playing at Walford at 7 p.m. And then for 4A, tonight we have West Side and South Point at Gaffney High School. And North Augusta, Coach Al Young, the legend, we had a chance to see his team play earlier this year. Is playing South Florence. So a big-time matchup, almost a rematch of the lower state championship game in football. Let's see. Then you got 3A, Smitty, St. Joe's versus Walhalla for upper state, and lower state, Keenan versus Oceanside. 2A, Landrum versus Andrew Jackson for the upper state championship. Lower state is Timberland and Atlantic Collegiate. And then 1A, we have Great Falls versus Lee Central, and that's going to be played at North Central High School tonight. And then Military Magnet versus Latta at the Florence Center. And that'll be actually at 12:30 today.
There you go. And so action-packed, and as Steve said, he'll be there for the state championships. As those will be decided, the champions will be crowned, and be certain to follow us. Follow us here. We'll be talking about it all next week through our YouTube channel, on the Chief Sports app. Be sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, 4-Quarter Friday YouTube channel. That way you get a notification when we are going live, and then you can catch up with all of the stories and the updates, and, of course, all these great coaches. We've already had Coach Shane Fiddler, White Knoll Athletic Director Victor Floyd join us. When we come back, we go to the Diamond as Austin Alexander talks to us about all the talent across the Palmetto State in baseball. We do that when we come back. You're watching 4-Quarter Friday, part of the Chief Sports Network.
Palm Casual Outdoor Patio Furniture proudly supports high school athletics across South Carolina. If it's time to make your outdoor space the best it can be, with lifetime warranties and guarantees, visit one of our Palm Casual stores in Myrtle Beach, Bluffton, Somerville, or Mount Pleasant. PalmCasual.com. PalmCasual.com. Turn on the lights. It's Friday night.
At Moultrie Insurance, our agents are working for you. Our commercial lines of coverage are well sourced and intimately chosen. We offer commercial lines of coverage such as business owners, umbrella, property, auto, or general liability coverage, and evaluate every option to find what fits you best. Like a good offensive coordinator, we will draw up the plays, but only run with what you feel comfortable. Get in touch with our quarterback, Perry Orth, or our head coach, Frank, by visiting MoultrieINS.com. MoultrieINS.com.
It's the 4-Quarter Friday High School Show on the Chief Sports Network. Proudly covering high school athletics across the state of South Carolina. with accurate, trusted analysis, in-depth interviews with coaches, media, and players, and quality information. Every Friday at 9 a.m. We're here for you. Proud partner of the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association.
Welcome back to Four Quarter Friday here on the Chief Sports Network. Matt Smith here, Steve Hall, and look at this. Austin Alexander joins us from the diamondprospects.com. Austin, thank you so much. First time we're having you on, but I know that no one knows more and can speak more eloquently about the level of talent that we have in the state of South Carolina. You get to go out and put your eyes on it. And you celebrate it. We appreciate you for doing that, and we love you carving out some time for us today.
Well, I appreciate you having us. We do see a good bit of baseball. This marks our 21st season, actually, of Diamond Prospects. I started back in January of 2006. So, boy, we've been doing it for a little while. Definitely look forward to seeing what we have out on the Diamonds this year. A lot of talent, a lot of good teams, a lot of returning good teams, but some new names too.
Yeah, well, give us the backstory if you would, because people hear the Diamond Prospects a lot, so now it's become more of a full service group. In addition to all the things you do, hands on with players, and in terms of evaluating and having like pro days and showcases and things like that. But you also have a lot of information on your site. So if you're a fan of high school or really even college baseball, because you can look at it from a recruiting perspective as well, tell us like all the things you're doing with the site.
Well, when people ask me what I do for a living, it really is difficult to really encompass everything that Diamond Prospects does. From events, you mentioned that we have the Palmetto Games, we have Pro Day. Those are two very strict invite-only events. Pro Day's in January. Typically, it snowed this year. Palmetto Games, we do that the first part of August, and those are both all-star events. And like I said, very strict invite-only events. But throughout the spring, which we have coming up right now, we're right in the midst of I'm in the process of getting pitching rotations and making sure I've got all the master schedules before it rains, of course, because it's going to do that, right? Just trying to get a feel for where I'm going to be, where all of our guys are going to be, try to lay eyes on as many players as possible. So during the spring, we do that. Obviously, we have our podcast once a week that we spit out that can be guys that are, in the big leagues right now, guys that have played at a high level all the way, in between college coaches, high school coaches, and even some of the top guys that are on the diamond right now. So those are what we do with our podcast. And we also have our fall leagues, which have become huge. This past year, we had 162 teams in our various fall leagues. We have one in the upstate, which is our largest one. I think there were 70 teams in that league this year. Have one in the Midlands, one in the Rock Hill, greater Rock Hill area, and then one in what we call the Low Country. And that became a 45-team league this year. And so that's a real good way for us to be able to identify players as well, just through our leagues. We're able to service players and get them on the field, allow coaches to work with their players in a time when they otherwise wouldn't be able to get their hands on their players. Players wouldn't have access to their facilities. They play in our leagues. They have all that. In addition, we cover it and we're able to identify players. That's just kind of a snapshot of what we do. We're pretty busy with the exception of the month of December.
I want to ask this, and then we'll talk about maybe specific players or specific teams and talk about what's happening this year. But I'm really curious. We've had this turnover, say at the University of South Carolina, coach after coach after coach. And Clemson's been more stable. And then Coastal, you saw what they did last year, and Chad Holbrook is doing some great things. And you have Winthrop. We've got SMC. We've got so many great programs, Florence, Darlington Tech. But I guess I want to ask from a general perspective, what is the relationship like between the coaches of those programs and our high schools? Because unlike football, it feels like we turn out, whereas football, you have to go out of the state oftentimes to find enough talent. It almost feels like we have enough talent to funnel to the colleges from the high school ranks here in this state. That's a rare thing for a state our size. What's the relationship like, coaches to high school coaches, and then to organizations like yours actually getting those players to those big-time name universities here in our state?
You're exactly right, Smitty. There is a wealth of talent here in our state. When you look at the colleges, obviously South Carolina's won a couple of titles. a decade or so ago. Coastal's right there knocking on it every year, it seems. There are some very good programs across our state. You just mentioned that. And I think that's in large part due to, there are good players that come from our state that hail from high schools where there's really good high school coaches in our state right now. That hasn't always been the case. I used to, you had coaches that would get a supplement to coach all the different sports on their campus and throw in baseball. That's not the case anymore. At most places, we've got baseball specific with really good baseball backgrounds piloting all these high school programs. So therefore, that along with the feeder programs that they put in place, their minor league system, if you will, that feed their high school teams, what's being spit out at the top each year is certainly, plenty of guys for all the colleges to go around. We've got a lot of really good programs. You mentioned the Division I schools, but there's some very good Division II and junior college baseball also in our state too. So fortunately, we've got a lot of really good schools, a lot of schools that have baseball teams at the college level. And a lot of those have had a lot of success. What we do obviously is we try to throughout the spring and throughout the year for that matter, do a lot of the hunting and fishing while these guys are on the field with their own teams, when they've got games that night or practices they can't get away from. We're the ones out there digging around trying to find the guys that they need to see. And that's where these invite only events are huge. And also our open events, because they come to those too. It gives them an opportunity to see the players that are looking to find a school.
Austin, thank you for joining us. We're getting ready to get into the meat of the high school schedule. The RBI, I'm here in Lexington, South Carolina. The RBI Invitational is going to start up tomorrow for White Knoll High School, and then I'm looking at the calendar, and you have the Optera Solutions Invitational, which used to be the Nature Chem. And this area is just so talent rich with high school baseball and some really good coaches in just Lexington County. Do you have any teams in these tournaments or any players that y'all are keeping an eye on that you're excited to see play in these tournaments?
Well, sure. You mentioned White Knoll. That's where I plan to be tomorrow if the weather gets out of here. They've got a 4-game slate. I'll be over there all day tomorrow. So I've got the pitching rotations for those, but I'll be there either way. I know that first game is going to be a pretty good matchup between Hillcrest and White Knoll, two really, really good arms. Will be on the mound for that particular game. And, so we'll be there. We're going to camp out and see whoever we see. But the White Knoll, the RBI is always historically a good event. And anytime we can see 8 teams in a day, that's a really good day for us. When you're trying to pick them off 2 by 2 on a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night, Thursday night, it's just, when we're able to really hunker down either through our scrimmages or these preseason tournaments, it really allows us to get out and get a good head start on the spring, because it's going to rain at some point. And that's why if the weather cooperates and allows these tournaments to be played, a day where we can see that many guys in one sitting is a very valuable day. And you mentioned the Optera the following week. That's where I'll plan on being. Now, the Optera creates a little bit more of a challenge because you got two different sites for one tournament. So we got to try to make sure we've staffed that. Or in some cases, I'm kicking back and forth between the 2 different sites. And Gilbert also has a tournament at Sandlapper at the exact same time. So that's another 8 teams that'll be in the Columbia area in addition to the Optera. So that's where we're just trying to staff it. Last year, all of our staff was off covering other events because there are other good tournaments across the state. You mentioned the Classic. You got the Coastal Invitational down in Pawleys Island. We always like to have guys at that too. So last year I was trying to hit those 3 sites by myself, and I had a son playing in it. So I was trying to see him play, obviously try to be a dad. And I got another one in college, trying to see them when I can get to that, but also try to be at 3 places at once. So while we want good weather for these games to be played, because it is a true value for us, we talk about just in the Columbia area, there will be so many good teams that are just going to be, converging on, the Columbia area. But the same thing down in Georgetown, you got 8 good teams, 7 outsiders that are going to be coming down. That's going to be a really good tournament. The one in Waccamaw, those are all really good tournaments. And so we try to get out and see as much as we possibly can. But it's fun for the folks that are, from those areas who might not be able to see a team from May River in Bluffton, to be able to see a team from the upstate or a different part of our state that might not otherwise see. They're going to be, in a general location, and that's what's valuable for us, but also for fans that want to see it, and college coaches too, because the calendar starts for those guys where the Division I coaches can't get out until March 1. and they've been on the sidelines since, the middle of October, not being able to get off campus to see guys. So that's where, us being able to round up rotations and trying to figure out, where they need to go as well. But for them to be able to, just like us, in one sitting, be able to see a lot of good teams, there's a lot of value in that. And not only that, good teams have good players.
Yeah, that's often the case. I wanted to ask you about a couple of those players, because now that you've been doing this so long, you have this reservoir. I remember him, or I know that guy. And Gamecock fans will tell you that Will Craddock has come on and made an immediate impact. I guess you saw him at TL Hanna. How did you look at him kind of as a prospect? He played shortstop in high school. He's taken on some first base. I'm just curious, what did you see in Will Craddock? I'm sure you had him rated highly.
Yeah, Will Craddock was a fantastic player early on. He was a little bigger than other guys early on, so you noticed a big kid who's young, but also can play. A pretty good runner for his size, and was able to man the middle of the infield just fine for a bigger body. You knew that if he continued to develop, and it certainly has, that he may body-wise play himself out of shortstop. But the bat's always played. Now, he's battled some injuries. He's had some random injuries that were not necessarily, sports related, just kind of freaky things that have happened to him that have kept him off the field. But man, when he's been on the field, he's been an instant impact. Obviously, the Gamecocks have been able to see that once they inserted him. He's done nothing but hit. But in our, when he's been on our landscape, and like I said, I think it was maybe his 9th grade year was the first time I laid eyes on him. And of course, we saw him a ton as a sophomore, a junior, and then, impact again as a senior. The kid's always hit. And so it doesn't surprise me, to be honest with you, that he's had the early success that he has. He's hit at every level, and I see no reason that'll change. And, because he's playing for, the fact that he can play different spots, typically you get a shortstop, you get an athlete, and those guys can kind of masquerade themselves around the field wherever because if it's a bat you want in the lineup, you got to figure out where to put them in there. And guys that are versatile tend to find their way in if the bat's good enough, and certainly the case with him.
Austin, we're part of the Chief Sports Network, and coming up after this show, we have Inside the Gamecocks, and baseball season's a big deal in Gamecock country, as you know, as a longtime baseball guy in this state. Something I'm curious about, something I'm still trying to learn about this Gamecock team, and just about college baseball in general, and I think it filters down to the high school level, is how much has the game changed? Because you're looking at a team like South Carolina, and you're expecting them to – there's certain expectations with these type of programs, especially with the talent that's in this state. What is missing, in your opinion, if you've had a chance to watch them, that's different than 10 years ago when they won those national championships?
Well, the one thing that I would point to that's a little different is the roster doesn't have a lot of South Carolina kids on it as compared to those teams that won. Now, that's not to say that's why they won, but it did have a much more of a local flavor on it than when I look at this year's roster. I haven't had a chance to see them play in person. I've watched them inter-squad a little bit in the fall, and then a little bit in the preseason, and whatever I can catch on TV, which has been very little. I know it's been a difficult start for those guys. But they also had their number one arm went down the day that I went in to watch them a couple of weeks ago. Jake McCoy went down with an injury. Well, you lose your number one guy. Everybody has to slide up into a role that they weren't necessarily penciled in for. And so that's going to take an effect as guys have to step into those new roles. Yeah, I don't want to speak necessarily to the talent. They've got a lot of portal guys, and those are guys I'm not familiar with. I do know that in our state, we're starting to see more and more guys over the last 4 to 6 years. A lot of the high school kids are choosing schools outside of our state, and that wasn't necessarily the case once upon a time. Most kids, we had a lot of talent back into the early 2000s, and really in the last 25 years, college baseball programs have done a really good job, but they've done a good job of recruiting in-state players. That's not to say those players that have gone out of state weren't recruited by in-state schools, but they're not necessarily choosing the in-state schools when they do decide to commit. And so that's something I like to see, because it's easier to follow, in-state players, South Carolina high school players. It's a lot easier to follow them if they go to South Carolina schools. And they kind of get a little lost. For me, that's just more box scores that I got to run around and check, and stats that I got to try to hunt down. I personally like it when they do stay close to home. And So that's one thing that I've noticed, at least with that particular program, is there's not as many just, I guess, homegrown kids. And I don't know what to attribute that to, and if that has anything to do with where they're sitting right now. But that's one thing that I would say Coach Tanner did a tremendous job. And Jim Tolman, who, by the way, is battling some health issues right now, so we need to keep him in our prayers. Shout out to Jim Tolman and his family. But when Coach Tanner and Coach Tolman came to South Carolina, one of the things they had done a really good job at North Carolina at NC State was recruiting North Carolina players to come to that school, and they did a really good job. When they came to South Carolina, doing the same thing, they came in and made a footprint in the state right away of getting in-state kids. They wanted to get the best players they could from South Carolina, and then fill in those gaps with either junior colleges or junior college guys or transfers or whatever. And I haven't necessarily seen that to be the case, but the portal is such a big deal. It's really changed the landscape, and you hit on how the game has changed. The game has changed because everybody throws 95 now. There was a time when upper 80s guys were hard throwers. That's really kind of dime a dozen these days. So the game has changed in that sense. It is the players are bigger, faster, stronger. There's no doubt about it. But the other part of it, the dynamic of how rosters are constructed, has really, really changed the culture of everybody's program, from obviously the NIL, but where they actually get their players from. In many cases, these schools are having to recruit their own players, and in often cases only retaining less than a third of their roster. You're going to lose guys to graduation, and the better programs are going to lose guys potentially to the draft. But these days now, you're having the roster retention is such a big portion of what your next year's team is going to look like, and then who you have to go out and get. And it's going to be hard, for those teams that continue to work through the portal. They're going to be replacing their roster over and over again, and that kind of gets into a whole nother topic. I miss college baseball. I love coaching it for a long time, but those are things that I think in my conversations with a lot of my friends that are obviously still in the profession, it has them pulling their hair out. Is just trying to figure out how they're going to make the money work and the roster spots work with players that are there now. How do we keep the ones that we want here? How do we keep them here? And then when, of course, they want to come out, you got your starting shortstop. In some cases, he's not happy, or he can get more money somewhere else. Now I'm having to replace a guy that I just let start 56 games. I thought he was going to be back, but now he's not. And it's just a revolving door that's spinning out of control in a lot of cases. And that's really changed the game. Up for others to decide whether that's a positive or a negative, but it certainly has changed.
Yeah, there you go. Austin Alexander. You're going to hear the diamondprospects.com a lot on our show, because we're going to lean on you, Austin, and your scouts and everybody, all the writing that you do, because you guys are just going to see more games than anybody else. You're going to put more information in one place than anybody else, and we're going to lean on you this spring.
We have put out all of our team rankings. We put a lot of time into that too. We talked to a lot of folks. The team rankings are out from 1A and 2A, Division 1 and 2 and 5A, all the way through SCHSL. All that's been out for a couple of weeks. The player rankings we're wrapping up this week, from the seniors all the way to this year's freshmen. So for folks that are wanting to see who's committed, if I want to go out to the ballpark, who am I looking for? All that is on thediamondprospects.com, from the teams to the players, to a lot of really good listens with our podcast. There's a lot of information on there. There's schedules. You can sort them by date. You can sort it by pitcher. You can sort it a lot of different ways if you're looking for baseball. There is a lot of information on that website. We put a lot into it so that we can kind of pre-answer a lot of questions that folks have.
Well, I know your busy time is about to start, so I don't know when we'll see you again. But but everybody is going to be seeing and hearing the diamondprospects.com, and then we'll get you back on maybe one more time this baseball season. You can tell us what you've seen from all these clubs and all these prospects.
Absolutely. We will be hitting the road hard. We've got quite a few guys that are very reputable baseball folks. That's why I think we've got a little credibility with college coaches and pro scouts we deal with, is because the people that we got out holding stopwatches and radar guns have a little background in this game. So we'll be hitting it as much as we can, rounding up rotations and seeing as much as we can. And if it's not raining, we're probably at a ballpark somewhere.
All right.
Well, Austin, I'm gonna see you tomorrow at the RBI. I think I'm just gonna, wherever you go, I'm just gonna follow you and just pick his brain and learn about these teams and these players.
Well, I'll be at Emerald on Saturday. 8 more teams there, and Corey Welch, our guy in the upstate, We're going to try to tag team some of that. My son's playing right across the road, so I'm going to try to be going back and forth between his college game and Emerald on Saturday. But yeah, we'll be out and seeing as much as we can. But we'll Coach Crowley's already told me he's got me a table set up behind the dish to come hang out with me. Love to have you.
All right, will do.
All right. Thank you, Austin. Thanks so much. Austin Alexander, thediamondprospects.com. We're rolling to another break here on Fourth Quarter Friday. Basketball playoffs are happening. Baseball, softball underway. It's all happening here on Fourth Quarter Friday, part of the Chief Sports Network.
Morning, Carl. Usual?
Yeah.
Your oldest was in here the other day. Said the two of you took a trip down to my neck of the woods. How'd that go?
You might as well give me one of those Carolina cars while you're at it.
I knew I liked that one.
Yeah.
There you go, my friend.
Thanks.
Hey, Carl. Congratulations.
See you tomorrow, ready?
You bet.
Welcome to Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions. Basement crawl space encapsulation designed for your specific needs. Your crawl space can be susceptible to all sorts of issues, including moisture buildup, mold growth, and structural damage if not cared for properly. Let our trained experts provide basement crawl space encapsulation solutions to protect your home, improve air quality, and enhance energy efficiency. Schedule your consultation today for a safer, healthier space at dryspacecs.com.
Do your wood floors need a touch-up? Visit recoatrevolution.com in South Carolina today. Welcome back to Four Quarter Friday, part of the Chief Sports Network. Let's talk ball.
This is Fourth Quarter Friday, and our thanks to Austin Alexander from thediamondprospects.com for joining us. As Steve intimated, he's just going to follow Austin around, catch the games that he's catching, so he knows he'll be seeing some of those top prospects, and it's all there on thediamondprospects.com. Everybody that is being recruited from our state, and as Austin said, not always land in our state. We had a big-time recruit in Patrick Mershon and others that left the Palmetto State's borders after last season to go play elsewhere, but many of them are staying as well to play at South Carolina, Clemson, Coastal Carolina, Charleston, and elsewhere. We've got some great programs, Florence Darlington Tech, SMC, certainly having success. But I know, Steve, I could see in your eyes, your ears perked up a little bit when Austin said, you know, we have had more and more talent leaving the state. And, of course, this kind of coincides with South Carolina slipping from the ranks of the elite, right?
Yeah, man, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. I mean, it makes you scratch your head as someone who, you know, is not old but not young anymore. And some of my fondest memories is me and my wife watching 3 straight national championship runs. Of course, the third for the South Carolina fell just short. But they played for 3 in a row. I mean, we were jumping up and down in our living room, and I have the first national championship, the state newspaper framed in my office. And gosh, it's awfully disappointing to see the run that South Carolina has had, because we're so passionate in this state about baseball and wanting to see some of these kids that are so good and staying home. But Austin, I could just be a sponge next to Austin and just, number one, hear his baseball mind talk about the high school game and the college game.
Yeah, and we're going to see a lot. You and I are going to see a lot of big-time prospects over the next few weeks, as you said, a baseball tournament coming up at White Knoll. I've got the Classic in my backyard in Georgetown, where Dorman and James Island and all sorts of teams, Southside Christian, they're going to be Stratford, all there meeting in one place at Mike Johnson Park. And so we're going to see all of that talent, but it is fascinating to see how many big-name players have left the state, but some big-name players have stayed in. We can't forget Landon Fowler at Clemson, Will Craddock at South Carolina, and others. I know Talmadge LaCroix was in-state product. And so there's plenty that stay as well, impact players. But to hear Austin Alexander say it to you, for you to say it seems like more guys are leaving, and for me to say it does feel like some of the top prospects are getting out of the state. And I know LSU and Arkansas have come in really hard on some kids here in our state this year. And as I said, Patrick Mershon left and went to Mississippi State. But then to hear Austin Alexander, whose life is and career is built on tracking all of these prospects and where they go. And for him to say more and more talent is leaking out of the state is very interesting. And it's just something we're going to continue to follow. We'll continue to watch. That's why I asked him about the relationships, and we'll see where that moves forward. But look, we don't want to be negative either because, as you said, South Carolina's slipping. Yes, they certainly have slipped from the ranks of the elite. But let's not forget about the runs that teams like Coastal Carolina and Florence Arlington Tech and others have had in recent years. USC Upstate is challenging also for to get North Greenville and Wofford. I mean, they're all over the place in our state. But yes, the headliners are certainly Clemson and South Carolina. Clemson's been doing great under Eric Bakich, but South Carolina not what it was. And whenever that happens, what are you going to ask? For people like you and I that go and watch this high school action, we're going to ask, well, are these teams shutting down the border? Are they getting the best players from the Palmetto State? And to hear Austin Alexander tell it, the answer is probably not. And we'll see if that changes, starting this year.
Well, it does give you a sense of comfort, though, if you are looking towards the future, no matter what program you are, whether it's South Carolina or Clemson or Coastal or Citadel. I mean, you do not have to leave this state, and that's a blessing. Because college recruiting is not for the faint of heart.
I think that's a great point. And as Austin said, there is just, an inordinate amount of talent for a state our size, an inordinate amount of baseball talent for a variety of reasons. You've got the history, you've got great training facilities, you've got great coaches, and then you've also got the weather. Some states aren't on the field right now taking ground balls, but we are down here. We're going to wrap this show up. The playoffs are upon us. Steve, next week is such a big show for us because, we're going to be on site. Now, I don't know that I will be there with you for all the games, but you are going to be there at the Colonial Life Arena, taking them in. And by the time we're on the air next week, we will have crowned several state championships the night before and be on the cusp of crowning more next Friday and next Saturday. So it's all coming to a head. All the teams we've been talking about all season long, we're going to get to see who wins at the top of these classifications by the time we're back on the air with you next week.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a great couple weeks. We got the state championships next week. It all comes to a head. The trophies are going to be lifted, and then you got baseball and softball cranking up. There's a big tournament in Lexington County that's hosted between Lexington High School and White Knoll High School, two really good softball programs between White Knoll and Lexington. White Knoll's coached by April Farr, and Lexington softball is coached by Lori Epps, who they played for, I believe it was an upper state championship against Burns last year. So just a ton of talent. Then you got the Optera Solutions tournament next week. So baseball and basketball being such high level playing in the same week. It is a bummer, Smitty, though. I'm going to be busy at the state championships and missing a lot of good baseball games next week too.
I know, but that's all right. These are the cold weather games. It's going to be better.
That's right.
It's going to be better to be checking out the April baseball. But we're going to have it all covered here on Fourth Quarter Friday. And be sure to subscribe to the channel here. We are streaming every Friday, 8:30 to 10. subscribe, get the notifications, download the Chief Sports app as well. As a matter of fact, we were talking about Will Craddock, South Carolina baseball, slipping from the elite. Inside the Gamecocks is coming up next. I'm sure they're going to have plenty to say about South Carolina following the loss to Queens, but looking ahead to the big matchup, the big showdown, 3-game set with Clemson this weekend. So for Steve Hall and for all of our guests, thank you to Shane Fiddler, Athletic Director White, new head coach at White Knoll. Can't wait to see his team play. And Austin Alexander from the DiamondProspects.com. This is Matt Smith wishing everybody a great weekend. Stay with us here on Fourth Quarter Friday in the Chief Sports Network. Inside the Gamecocks is next.
From the Low Country to the Upstate, from the Midlands to the PD, we've got you covered. This is our state. South Carolina matters to us. All of South Carolina. We love talking ball, and we love talking ball with you. Thank you for tuning into the 4 Quarter Friday High School Show. Every Friday at 9 a.m. on the Chief Sports Network. Proudly presented by the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association.